Certainly the one of forgiveness is something we've heard for the last, now 4 weeks. God is constantly calling us to forgiveness. 3 weeks ago, it was the man who was trying to figure out how he could speak to someone who had hurt him, to break down the enmity that was created there, to somehow draw that person back into community. The next week, it was, how many times do I have to forgive, says Peter? 7. And Jesus says, no, 77 times. And the week after that, last week, we had that story about the man who hired all those people at different times of the day and yet paid them all the same. He didn't see that that their work should be rewarded any more than what he should reward them for. 1 hour or 8 hours or 10 didn't make any difference. They were all called the same way. And as you look at this notion of forgiveness, you come to today, and he says the one who helped out, the one who finally went, he is the one who obeyed. And he's talking to the chief priests and the Pharisees. He said, you've all said yes, but you haven't done anything. But the prostitutes and the tax collectors, they said their no, but now they've changed. Again, they have found forgiveness in the eyes of God. When I think about forgiveness, I also have to see it in terms of inclusivity. Jesus does not reject anyone. The one story he tells is that the sun shines on the good and the evil. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. That's kind of hard to accept. We'd like to think the sun just shines on us, the ones who are the good ones. But no. Those people who do not live a holy life, God still loves them. And sometimes I think we had a very hard time accepting that. There's another time when Jesus was to visit a town, and they wouldn't let him enter the town. And his disciples said, all right, now let's send down thunderbolts on them. Let's punish them. He says, no, we don't have to do that. Let's go on to the next town. He'll find a way to include that town later on. The time they heard of somebody who was not of their group, who was preaching and teaching Jesus and working wonders, they said, Lord, they're not part of our group. Punish them somehow. And he said, no. He had to laugh at him. He said, if they're not against us, they're for us. Why are you constantly separating people out? Why are you trying to find those who are in and those who are out? Jesus never did that. He never had a group that was out here. He greeted everyone the same. If they were Jew or Gentile, the same. If they were centurions who had a slave who was sick, he responded to them as he would to the chief priest who asked for help himself. There were no boundaries to God's love in Jesus Christ. And I think we have a hard time with that a lot of times. We'd like to think that God loves me best or better because I do the right things. And so it's a shock to us, I think, sometimes when the ones who said no, who have now said yes, are loved by God. When mine has always been a yes. Is it the image of that Pharisee looking in the temple praying? And he says, what a wonderful man I am. I do all these wonderful things. And this guy over here, he's a sinner. And the sinner was bowing his head, beating his breast, and saying, Lord, I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner. And Jesus says the sinner went home justified. He never gets mad at. He never shames sinners. The ones he gets mad at, and the one I think he shames, are those who deny that they're sinners. The priests and the Pharisees, lording it over everyone else, denying that they were the sinners. These are the ones where he expresses frustration. Again, forgiveness and inclusivity, I think, are kind of the same thing. But I'll add a third word to that. When I think about forgiveness, I think about the word acceptance. I need to be able to come to accept the reality in which I live. I need to forgive the reality in which I live. We're talking about forgiveness. We don't necessarily need to talk just about somebody hurt me. I think we have to, all of us, forgive reality. Reality is broken. I think that's what they're trying to tell us when they talked about original sin. This world is not perfect. There's a glitch there somewhere. The container is cracked. And you know what? That hurts us. And we can become angry at that. But we need to forgive and to accept. We need to forgive our families. Forgive our friends. We need to forgive our church. We need to accept all of these people as they are. Now, when I say acceptance, a lot of people think that means I approve. No. But I never, as Jesus said, turn my back on them. I must, because they are my brother or my sister, accept them as part of who I am. It's hard to do when you think of Osama bin Laden and the cheering that went on when he died. I can understand why it went on. But when I'm faced with these gospel readings, I have to realize that there's a need to be able to accept even someone who's done something terrible to us. The Hitlers, the Stalins, the Pol Pots, the bin Ladens, all of these people still belong to God. And we must find a way to accept them and forgive them.